If you're a high school girls basketball fan, then Christmas is coming early. We're at Farmington High School for one of the biggest regular season games on the calendar. The Hopkins Royals, defending Class 4A state champions #1 in the polls, take on the Farmington Tigers, #3 in Class 4A. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Peden, joined by LaToya Turk. LaToya, even though these two teams are neck and neck in terms of rankings, their history's quite the opposite. Hopkins, 6 state tournament titles. They make the finals seemingly every year. Farmington has never made a state tournament. That could change this year. That being said, this is going to be a lot of fun.
The numbers that we're looking at right now definitely show that Farmington might make a change this year. They came to play, so it'll be nice.
Well, they came to play last year, came within 2 points of beating Lakeville North in the Section 1 4A final. Lakeville North in Section 3 this year, so that's no longer a problem. And one reason why Farmington is one of the teams to watch, their big three: Sophie Hart, Molly Mogensen, and Paige Bueckers.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to contend with those three, but also we know Hopkins has a big three as well. So they've been putting up some good numbers this season, and we don't expect anything different tonight.
For Hopkins, it's not just a big three. Their entire starting five, heck, some of their reserves could start on other teams. Of course, you know they're led by Paige Bueckers, the UConn commit. Leads the school in every category imaginable. Points, assists, steals, you name it. Paige got a state title last year. She's won just about everything you can possibly achieve at the high school level, so I have to imagine this year it's all about having fun.
Well, it is all about having fun for her, and she makes it look so easy and effortless out there, and she's a player that's very hard to contain. I look forward to seeing how she controls the tempo of the game tonight against this Farmington team.
Of course, she doesn't do it alone. Keep an eye out for folks like KK Adams, the three-point threat. Maya Naji, she's a beast down low. Amaya Battle, one of the peskiest guards out there. This Hopkins team, they do it as a team, and that's why they've won so many state titles in the last 15 years.
We're definitely in for a show tonight.
We are in for a show indeed, and we'll start that show when we return. Twin Cities Sports Broadcasting, and a whole lot more. That's what you get from TSB Television. We provide long-lasting digital coverage of your favorite athletes from the preps to the pros. Dazzling moves. Holloman, good if it goes. Yes! Game winners. James, she's in trouble. Finds James, toss shot, it goes in! And everything in between. Before we let you go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Oh, I don't know. Let's put me on the spot there.
If you want to connect with our audience, visit us at patreon.com/TSB Television or sponsor our coverage through PayPal and Cash App. Thank you for watching. Welcome to Farmington High School. Our first visit to the 4A school, yes, in southern Minnesota. LaToya, some matchups just speak for themselves. This is one of those nights, as you know, I'm a big basketball fan, where there wasn't just one good game, but if there was only one we had to go to, I don't think this was a bad choice.
Absolutely.
And we've got a big crowd, at least on the Farmington side, and you can hear Molly Mogensen being saluted. She broke her mother's all-time scoring record at the season opener at the Tip-Off Classic. Farmington beat St. Michael Albertville 92-78. Farmington has played neutral site games, so this is the first time Molly Mogensen has been able to receive the recognition she deserves.
Absolutely. She's a wonderful player.
Molly Mogensen heading to Creighton. Liz Carpentier told Molly's mother, but kept her in the dark. She doesn't want her players getting too caught up in stats, which is understandable.
Yep.
But her mother knew when Molly broke the record, and after that happened, Julie came up to Molly, gave her a hug, and says, "You did it." And Molly's like, "What are you talking about?"
Well, let's see what she's going to do tonight against Paige and this Hopkins team here. It's one thing we know about Molly, she is a scorer.
Farmington as a whole, they can run 92 points in their season opener. First time they've cracked 90 in the last couple of years. And Liz Carpentier told me this team can run. So you might get the old tropes or stereotypes about teams outside the metro not being able to run. And And I see what's going on. There was a youth team, and there's a kid over there getting an embrace from her teammates. I didn't hear what was going on.
Yeah, I didn't hear either. That's definitely a great opportunity to bring your young kids into your program, have them look up to your players that are playing right now, and especially when you have some pretty high-profile players on your team. Great opportunity.
I was going to say a near-capacity crowd, and if you have all the folks who are hanging out on the railings, you know how that goes. If they all went to the bleachers, I think you would be close to a sellout capacity, but with the concourse area, that's just natural. Everybody kind of hangs around the rafters.
And this Farmington side, I mean, it looks like the whole town has come out to support this team.
I heard rumors that we could have a sellout, and while we're not quite there, Farmington certainly bringing out the crowd. Well, they know what's at stake. This is a big game, and with these two likely to win their section, Hopkins in 6, Farmington in 1, this game will have crucial implications for seeding because whoever wins, you get a leg up. Farmington already has a few big wins on their resume. Stillwater, St. Michael Albertville, they beat St. Louis Park, so they've already got a leg up on a Section 8 contender. St. Louis Park, a dark horse in Section 6, and Stillwater, the likely favorite in Section 4. And Hopkins, this may be the first competitive game they've had all season. I saw them at the Pat Patterson event against Apple Valley. Paige Bueckers and company just ran circles.
Right, and like you said, this is going to be their first real competition against this Farmington team. But as we know, we talk about the crowd for the Farmington side. Hopkins brings their own fans as well. Oh, I had to dodge a ball there. We see they have arms.
Well, Hopkins, they're not afraid to schedule tough. They'll play Chaska and Park Center. Chaska, Section 2 contender, Park Center with a dynamic duo. They'll get La Crosse Aquinas again. I had a chance to see them at St. Thomas. Aquinas, they're a small team, but with Lexi Donarski, Courtney Becker, they can run. And St. Michael Albertville now in the conference, so that helps Hopkins out in a big way.
This is going to be a great game, Mike.
Let's take a look at the starters. For the visiting Hopkins Royals, it's Paige Bueckers, number 1, the UConn recruit. Amaya Battle, number 5. Taylor Woodson, number 20. KK Adams, number 22. And Maya Naji, number 34. Farmington, same 5 as you saw in our last broadcast. So it'll be Peyton Blandon, number 11. Paige Kinseth, number 15. Kaylin Moore, number 21. Molly Mogensen, Farmington's all-time leading scorer, number 24. And Sophie Hart, number 32. A lot of media, a lot of coaches are here. Lindsay Whalen is here to scout Sophie Hart. They are lobbying hard to get her. Farmington bringing the noise.
And I think every single player that steps on the floor tonight, they're going to bring their A game. Like you said, there's a lot at stake for this game. They know it. I'm just ready for the tip-off.
Liz Carpentier lives in Farmington, started her coaching career at Egan.
And when we look on the floor, those are all Division I recruits right there on the floor.
And Brian Cosgriff, the longtime head coach at Hopkins, some asked him if this year's Hopkins team was the best ever. He said, we've got a ways to go. I'm not into superlatives like that, but this Hopkins team, as you can see, they bring crowds wherever they go.
Yes.
Farmington wins the tip. And these are two teams that can run. Molly Mogensen in traffic gives Farmington the first basket, and listen to the crowd. Bueckers to Woodson, and one.
And one, yeah. Well, it's interesting to see Maya's playing defense on Molly. She's going to have to get her hands up and get a hand in her face because we know she's going to score.
And what makes Paige Bueckers so tough to defend is not her scoring ability, her passing as well.
Yeah, she's a facilitator.
Taylor Woodson, one of the double-digit scores for the Royals, averaging 14 a game. She'll complete the three-point play.
And we see Hopkins right now going to their press.
Farmington has the speed to match, but Hopkins gets the steal there. Taylor Woodson with the strip. Paige Bueckers out to Amaya Battle. Amaya, one of the top-rated members of the sophomore class. Elbow J, swish.
Got to her sweet spot there.
And Glayla Chakolis, who's now at Hampton, told me Hopkins practices are super intense. The idea is work them hard in practice, and then the games are more fun.
Oh, yeah.
Some think they might push them a little too hard, but the record speaks for itself. 6 state titles. The first Minnesota recruit to go to UConn and Paige Bueckers. It's hard to argue with the results. Maya Naji intercepts the entry pass. An early 5-2 lead for the Royals.
She's been a pretty big-time player for Hopkins as well.
Woodson to Bueckers. Step back three. And
Right
there's
there.
Paige trying to force the jump. And we've got a foul on Hopkins. That's Tim Layton, the communications director for the Minnesota State High School League. And one of his co-workers is covering the game in John Millay. And Tim Layton and I, we know each other, covering the Minnesota Lynx together for 10 years.
Great crew. The one thing about Molly is that we know she's very strong. So if you're going to take the ball from her, I mean, you got to really go for it.
As we said, Farmington has the speed to match. That will be a walk on Mogensen. Farmington has yet to get Sophie Hart involved, but if Farmington can set her up down low, Hopkins, they've got some size, but Sophie Hart, she is a walking double-double.
And they've been setting some good picks, so it's just a matter of time.
Bueckers drives. Oh my goodness! Bueckers with the continuation.
Nice move. She saw that opening. She went for it.
Paige Bueckers, a walking highlight reel. Big fan of Kyrie Irving. As you know, she's won just about everything. Misses the three-point play, though. But the Royals with an early 7-2 lead.
Looks like Hopkins has Farmington had numbers here.
Farmington will let that bounce out of bounds. I was going to say Bueckers winning several gold medals in junior national competition with Team USA. One of her teammates, Caitlin Clark at Dowling Catholic. Clark going to Iowa. And Bueckers going to UConn.
And it looks like Maya's all over Sophie down in that paint. Sophie's trying to seal her. There we go.
That's a fun battle of the bigs. Sophie Hart will win that round.
Yeah. She kept at it. She was persistent. And she set pick after pick after pick until she walked her down in the paint and sealed her.
Long way to go. There's KK Adams. The skip. Taylor Woodson can't knock it down. Hart with the rebound. I covered Farmington's win over Stillwater. Hart played a big role in that one, getting a bunch of awards. Caitlin Moore, the ukulele player. I'm not kidding, she does play ukulele, scores for the Tigers.
And now we see Maya has her sealed. Okay.
Taylor Woodson played significant minutes as an 8th grader last year. Bueckers drives and scores.
And if you let Paige get that deep, she's going to score.
Farmington, that will be an incomplete pass. That brings up 2nd down and 10. Oh, wait, that's not the right sport. And the sideline official, he knows what's up. Since Farmington missed on the inbound there, Hopkins can do it underneath the Farmington basket. There's Paige Bueckers looking for some space. And scores in traffic.
Letting her get to her sweet spot.
With Paige, I think anywhere's her sweet spot. Amaya Battle brings the pressure early.
And now we see Agara for Hopkins.
Kinseth unable to score.
She has a phenomenal range here.
Goes by Nunu, Agara does. Bueckers thought about a three. Instead goes to Woodson. Pump fakes.
Nice
Woodson
step through.
around Hart. It's hard to get around that 6'4" frame. Kinseth, that's the second elbow J she's missed.
She'll shake those nerves off, use the backboard.
Blocking foul is called on KK Adams. We were speaking of history in the Open. Hopkins and their 6-state tournament titles, their list of D1 commits include Nia Coffey, who's in the WNBA, Nia Holly, now a senior at Michigan State, Leslie Knight, who had a phenomenal career with the Gophers. Jalila Chacolas, who I mentioned earlier, she's at Hampton now.
Yeah. We can go on and on.
Ashley Bates, her younger sister, now playing for the Royals. Ashley, Big South Player of the Year last year for Hampton. Sophie Hart on the backdoor play. You know how much I love those.
Let her.
Bueckers, no good. A collision with the rebound, though. That gives Hopkins another chance. And Maya Naji converts. Maya, the younger sister of Zeke, who's now at Arizona. And Hopkins, they bring the pressure from the inbound.
And that's going to wear Farmington down. You're going to have to come up with a plan to get open in this backcourt.
The speed and conditioning of Hopkins, almost unparalleled. Well, it was last year when undefeated. Oh, but that time it burns them.
That was very smart.
Paige Kinseth scoring on the touchdown pass. That's the danger when you press like that from the inbound area.
Well, they set picks. That's what they did, and they just took off, that was great. I think I might use that one.
Are you going to pass that along to Maranatha? Hey, Jim. Foul was called on the Tigers. 13-10 our score, 12:49 left in the first half. Mike Peden and LaToya Turk, what an exciting game. And we'd like to thank all of you watching this on YouTube and CCX Media for syndicating this matchup. Sophie Hart says, get out of here.
Hey, that was some nice patience by Maya, though. When she received that ball, she waited, she let him clear out. Sophie was just too much for her defensively.
Bueckers catches the inbound. Naji, elbow J, swish. And that quiets the Farmington crowd for now.
It's nice when you can have an inside-outside game from your big man.
Peyton Blandon scores. Adams lost it. Maya Naji is there for the putback.
It always helps when you have an older brother that you can play against. Makes it a lot easier to get rebounds over other young ladies.
Well, the Coffeys had that as well, Nia and Sydney.
Yeah.
Well, actually, their brother was younger, but Amir Coffey, all three of them. Maya Naji was called for the foul.
I'd like to see that on a replay.
And that will send Molly Mogensen to the line for free throws.
And during warm-ups, we saw Molly shooting a lot of free throws, and I was just. She likes to take the ball into the lane, pick up some fouls from the opposing team, and get to the free throw line.
Molly Mogensen, her nickname is Chip because she says, like her father, I'm a chip off the old block. Going to Creighton, where she'll join a friend of ours, Michael Parham. So
that's like a pipeline for Minnesota players.
It is, and that means we're getting a preview of a future Big East matchup with Mogensen and Bueckers as UConn returns to the Big East next year. Farmington with the steal.
And Farmington's no slouch defensively themselves.
Molly Mogensen in transition, and the Tigers cut it to within 1.
Yeah, Farmington's defense is creating some good offense for them.
Bueckers, elbow J short. Rebound Kinseth. Farmington can take their first lead. Hart will give it to them.
Now with 11 minutes left in the first half, we now see Farmington with their first lead, and their crowd's going crazy.
Adams, 3 ball, no good. But if she catches fire, look out.
Oh, yes.
You remember the Stillwater game in the 4A championship. Couldn't buy a bucket in the first half. Came on strong in the second. That allowed Hopkins to run away. Mogensen pulls up. No good. I think Bueckers was able to get to her. High, low. Oh, Najee had it.
Yeah.
She had the lane all to herself and couldn't finish. And Farmington throws it right into traffic. And then they steal it back.
Yes. Give me those cookies, girl.
Nobody takes a play off. Timeout Farmington. 18-17. We said this would be the first big test for Hopkins. So far, they're getting a big test.
Right. I wonder how long these girls at Farmington have played together, because they really look in sync. They're playing together. They're working together. They're getting each other open. They're setting backdoor picks. They're executing their plays. And we know that Hopkins, they have some younger players on their team. And so a lot of those turnovers are coming from, mistakes that we see with younger players.
Well, this group has been together for a while. Remember, they were a top 10 team a year ago, upset in the sections to Lakeville North. Won their first 15 games of the season before Chaska knocked them off at the Minnesota Fury MLK Classic. But this Farmington team, they're no fluke. This isn't a team that came out of nowhere. They had the pieces and have been building for a season like this. And now with Lakeville North out of Section 1, a lot of folks feel this will be the year Farmington finally gets to state. But as you and I can say, there are no guarantees.
Yeah, their off-the-ball work is great. Being able to set your picks when you don't have the ball in your hand. Your movement when you don't have the ball in hand. That's what's getting them open.
Here is Nunu Agara. Fans wanted to travel. Hart says,
and they're
I don't
off.
think so. Not in my house. Sophie Hart with a couple of blocks already. I can see why Whalen in particular is interested in getting her. Hart hasn't announced her college yet.
I'd like to see Hopkins sit down and run a set.
Paige Bueckers with that Kobe Bryant-like 1-foot jumper. And that's the second time Farmington has thrown it away off the inbound.
And that seems to be a strategy for them to get the ball, go long. That's something you practice and practice,
How about that move by Bueckers, though? For her, it seems natural, but it's still impressive.
Any other kid, that would be like their move of the year for them.
Well, Paige has
every
plenty.
day for her.
Right. No-look dishes. Here's a drive and a score.
And for the younger players that are watching, you notice when Paige went to the basket how she used her body to draw the foul. Yeah. Smart girl.
Paige Bueckers, up until last year, got some flack for winning everything except that state title. It's, I'm thinking of the Houston Rockets, Clyde Drexler for all those years.
Hey,
back in the 90s before he finally got to win one. Kevin Garnett. When you win everything except the state title, it can wear on you. Folks will give you a hard time about it.
I wouldn't let it wear on me. Slide your resume, I'll slide mine.
Well, then Paige won last year, and then that shut up all the critics.
Yeah.
A bright future is ahead of her for sure.
Yeah.
But what impresses me the most about Paige, well, hang on. We've got a 3 coming from Farmington. No good. Hart tips the offensive rebound, and Mogensen collects it. More for 3. Short. Hart again. Mogensen drains the elbow J.
That's exactly what happens when you get second and third shot attempt looks at the basket.
It seems that's where Farmington is getting the edge. Paige Bueckers has the athleticism, but they haven't found an answer for Sophie Hart, who's winning the battle of the boards. Paige Bueckers again, no good. Mogensen with the rebound that time. Here's Blandon. You've got to be careful in transition because Hopkins, they have the speed to match just about anybody, so they're always in position.
And Amaya Battle.
Intercept. Go ahead.
She's did a great job. She's done a great job getting in that lane. She's gotten a couple deflections in the lane. Her arms are very long.
But what impresses me most about Bueckers, her selflessness as she fires the three. One of the games I covered last year against Aquinas, she couldn't shoot well, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Didn't bother her a bit. She just dished it off to KK and Dalila Chacolas. It helps to have options like that, but other players might get rattled.
And that,
and start forcing it, not Paige.
That keeps her team engaged as well. If you just have one player coming down taking all of the shots here, the other players can become a little disengaged. So that's a great leadership by Paige.
Paige Bueckers up to 13 points.
And we know she can take over a game.
Paige Bueckers, one of the more consistent scorers. Mogensen missing the elbow J. Farmington can't save it. And Bueckers is going to have one of the easier buckets of the season. But Paige in the last 4 games has scored 20 or more, and she averages about 22. Would probably have more if Hopkins left her in there, but the Royals have so many blowout wins.
Right.
You can put in the second and third stringers. Apple Valley comes to mind, 98-38. Timeout Hopkins, 7:03 left in the first half. Well, let's talk about some of these results. They started the season against Becker. Now Becker was willing to take them on at the Tip-Off Classic, and Becker, they're not afraid to take risks like that. The way they saw it, how often can you say we get to play Paige Bueckers 3 years in a row, and they are one of the top 3A teams. One good way to learn.
Right.
Waconia, 101-57. Rosemount, 80-45. And on Tuesday, they took care of Robbinsdale Cooper, 87-45.
And, so when you see those scores that high, they've gotten some great practice in running their sets, working on some of their execution, because they're scoring on each possession. So, and that's why we see them setting the picks out here, getting the rolls, helping each other, because they've had 3 games where they've, hit above 80 points. Showing patience on that press.
3 on the way. Bullseye. Farmington needed that. Caitlin Moore with her first triple. Najee will fire the 3. Rebound tip to Kinseth. And this Farmington team, they can put up points as well. We got a foul. It will go against Hopkins.
And you can see Paige wanting the jump ball call.
Farmington put up 92 in that win over St. Michael Albertville, and that's
impressive over.
Right, and that's no ordinary 92. St. Michael Albertville, one of the perennials.
Right.
They put up 79 on Stillwater. As we said earlier, you think of these teams that they can't run or they play the old school way, but you saw this at the Pat Patterson invite. The shot clock the first year was put in place, didn't have much of an impact. A lot of the teams that were featured in that event, they like to push it. Caitlin Moore drains her second 3, and we're tied at 26.
We've called a few games this year already, and I have not seen a team with the off-the-ball execution as well as Farmington is showing right now. They're very patient in their sets.
Paige Bueckers, crossover.
And Paige is, you can see Paige and Molly really going at it right now.
Farmington able to save it, but Kinseth had nowhere to go. Wasn't aware that Najee was in her presence. Again, that press that Hopkins establishes, not many teams can do it like they can. One reason why they're so successful. Battle. This is amusing. You've got two guys with cell phones behind that baseline.
Waiting for an ESPN highlight.
Well, you've got them, overtime, everybody. Battle for three. Yes! That's the first three-point field goal for the Royals. Like we said, Paige draws a crowd. There was a feature in the Star Tribune highlighting both the Hopkins and Minnehaha Academy boys teams, wondering, are they the best ever? Moore has other ideas. Sophie Hart with the offensive rebound. Fadeaway no good. And she gets her own miss. And I talked to Chuck Burmeister, the assistant coach for Hopkins, about it briefly. Hopkins can't save it. I don't get into superlatives just because, remember that St. Paul Central team from 06-07 went undefeated. Some thought they were the best ever. We've seen several undefeated teams, Hopkins of last year,
and here we see that play again.
Don't forget, like Minneapolis North, for example, back in the late 90s. That's going to be a foul on KK Adams. I feel the conversation is relative. It's like asking who's the best player is between Kobe, LeBron, and Michael Jordan. Different eras, different competition. Hopkins belongs in that conversation. Last year's team, this year's team has a good chance, but to say they're the best ever, well, we might see another team, whether it could be Hopkins or another school in 5-10 years, and that could change the whole complexion of the conversation.
Right. And they're not going to take any chances. They're going to pull KK out. She has 2 fouls right now. There's about 4 minutes left in the first half.
Well, when you have the depth that Hopkins does, you don't need to take that risk.
Right. I mean, we've all said it. You can, nice steal.
That's Nunu. Tried to draw the foul, but it helps. Oh! Well, Hopkins finally scores out of it.
Second and third chance attempts. We'll get you a bucket.
I think you're about to say how Hopkins and that depth of theirs, last year's team had some great bench players.
Right.
One of them is playing community college ball in Andrea Gray.
Right. For Hopkins, you can take any one of those players that still have their gray warm-ups on, and they would be starters in any other program.
Najee with the turnaround, and I sense a timeout coming there from Farmington. And on that subject, I mentioned this last year. Paige, I'm sure she would have all the accolades if she went to another school, but knowing that you're at Hopkins, willing to sacrifice her own numbers, even though she is the all-time leading scorer at Hopkins. She can score when she needs to, but she knows I don't have to score 50. I've got plenty of teammates who can do the job.
And that's part of their success. That's part of their success. They have a number of players that can score and do multiple things. Great ball handlers, rebounders. So, and they work together well. They know what they have. But I'm looking to see for Farmington to get Sophie involved, not just on the boards, but get her scoring.
More often,
get her
she has 6 points.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned some of the teams of note for Hopkins. We mentioned St. Michael Albertville now in the conference, the Wyzetta series. That's going to be another big pair of games. The first meeting is January 21st at Hopkins, right after the MLK Classic. A lot of good games. That Hopkins-Wyzetta series, Brian Cosgrove said if Wyzetta was in another section, they would probably get to state. That being said, Wyzetta, they've built up their program too. And Alex Nagel and I spoke of this. I think you were there. What Hopkins has done has inspired other teams to build up their programs. Hopkins, of course, still gets wins. They still compete for titles. But I remember in the early part of the decade, you could mail the trophy to Hopkins.
Right.
The parity since then, so much better.
Right. And it just takes time. It takes dedication. There's a lot of work in the off season with your teams. A lot of commitment to getting some of the younger girls in the gym and developing them, engaging your community in your program, and just being active in your supporting your athletes.
Stillwater comes to mind. That's an offensive foul on the Royals.
It's a process. And we see a lot of teams doing that now. You're right.
It took Wyzetta several years to build up their team to where they are in the discussion of top teams in the state. They sent off a couple of D1s last year, and Mimi Schrader and Callie Tyson. I'll be seeing them when they host Stillwater January 3rd. Morgan Ebel trying to get on the board. And
Great pinch right there.
Farmington in a rut. Hopkins will call a timeout. They'll have 3 remaining.
It's a great pinch right there by those bigs. Kept their hands up. Didn't draw a foul. That was nice work there.
And as crazy as this sounds, to continue our discussion, the UConn women, before Gina Oriema became their head coach, didn't have much history there either. Everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes commitment. And like we saw the Farmington team, they had those younger girls out. Those girls are looking up to these seniors and juniors and sophomores and freshmen that are playing on this varsity team, and they want to be on the team. Got to make them buy in. Drink the Kool-Aid.
Yes, indeed. Now, Paige Bueckers has an interesting post-game ritual. We'll see how this game goes, but I had to wait a little bit to do a post-game with her because she does a prayer after every game. Very spiritual, reminds me of Nia Holly, where faith and basketball come together. And Amaya Battle knocks down a 3. The Royals with a 12-point lead, their largest. And Hopkins building this run as Farmington struggling to convert.
You know, to go back to what you were saying about her post-game ritual, it's absolutely amazing that after her games that she gives God the glory for where she's at. And for other young ladies who are hearing this or watching this game, I'm happy to hear that that's a part of Paige's post-game routine.
Well, when her teammates told me about that, I said, yeah, I can wait because of the olive branch. There's Paige. Well, she can't make everything.
And she was like 1.5 steps off the three-point line. That was a Michaela Vanette 3 right there.
Vanette, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Of course, we've seen folks go deeper and deeper. Sarah Scalia, who's starting at Minnesota now.
Yes, nice.
Got Freshman of the Week honors last week.
Nice, Sarah. Nice work.
For the Big Ten. 3 ball. Hard.
Great hands.
You said Farmington wants to get her more involved, or you like to see that, and there's Hart with the putback. And the Tigers know there's a lot of time. They're down by 10, but there's another half to play.
And they have all the pieces. They have 3-point shooters. They have some swarming defense.
That's a walk.
I watched this kid play this summer on Tara Stark's AAU team. Unstoppable. She was unstoppable.
The Metro Stars after it being at North Tartan. And how about that team? Liza Carlin, Mia Curtis.
Loaded.
Paige could only play for so long because of her USA commitments, but nobody seems to mind.
The KK Adams was on that team.
Yep. And when they're not playing, they support each other. I saw Paige at the Minnehaha De La Salle doubleheader last year to support her friend Mia.
It's a small community.
3 on the way. If Farmington can get that to go in, they could get some more momentum. Right now, their shots just aren't falling.
Yeah. Sophie's doing a great job positioning herself for those offensive rebounds. I'd like to see her get the rebound, keep it up, and go back up. She'd get to the foul line.
Paige. No good. And that's a costly miscue for Farmington. Brandon had a little more time there.
Right now, Farmington needs to take advantage of every possession. We're under a minute, so let's see them play smart, not pick up a foul. And the same for Hopkins when they go back on defense.
Bueckers trying to sneak it down the middle. We've got a scramble here. Jump ball, Hopkins with the arrow. 51.8 on the clock.
I always worry about those jump balls that go to the ground. I just want everyone to get up slowly.
Well, this ain't your mother's style of basketball. They're aggressive. They get after it. Bueckers, no good. Let's see if Farmington can score on this possession. Kinseth will drive and will shoot 2. Farmington was in the bonus anyway.
And it looks like Farmington has that mindset. Let's push the ball up the floor and attack the rim. And if we don't get it, we got shooters sitting out in the pocket waiting to take the jump shot.
Paige Kinseth, a volleyball-basketball crossover, enjoys fishing and going to church in her spare time.
And she connects on both of those free throws, Mike. So now they're only down by 8 points. 30 seconds left. Looks like Amaya's going to walk the ball up the floor. Take her time.
A half-court set from Hopkins. You don't see that often. Farmington has 2 fouls to give if they wish to use them. 10 seconds. Look for Hopkins to make a move about now. Paige will try to work off the screen. Goes to Najee. Najee's got to go and will beat the buzzer. So Hopkins gets a little bit of momentum and a little bit of a cushion after a shooting rut for the Tigers. The Royals with a 40-30 lead and a battle of number 1 and number 3.
Great first half. Great first half. Farmington came to play tonight. Hopkins, they're very deep. I don't see a lot of action from the Farmington bench, but their starting 5 have held up very well against the Hopkins rotation against them. So let's see what their game plan is when they come out. I know they need to score some points really quickly to decrease this lead. So I'm looking for a lot more of those long inbound passes and quick shot sets.
We'll see what kind of sets come into play when we return. You're watching high school girls basketball.
Twin Cities Sports Broadcasting, and a whole lot more. That's what you get from TSB Television. We provide long-lasting digital coverage of your favorite athletes from the preps to the pros. Dazzling moves.
Holloman, good if it goes. Yes!
Game winners.
From James. She's in trouble. Finds James. Toss shot! It goes in!
And everything in between.
Before we let you go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Oh, I don't know. That's put me on the spot there.
If you want to connect with our audience, visit us at patreon.com/TSB Television or sponsor our coverage through PayPal and Cash App. Thank you for watching.
Mike, Peden, and LaToya Turk with you. High school girls basketball, Farmington and Hopkins. Battle of number 1 versus number 3. Your first half analysis, LaToya?
Both teams did a great job. We saw Farmington pushing the ball up the floor. We saw Paige Bueckers. So it'll be interesting to see what the second half brings us for both of these teams. And so Amaya Battles bringing the ball up the floor for Hopkins, and right away Paige scores.
Bueckers up to 19. She led everyone in the first half, 17 points. Maya Najee had 10, Amaya Battle had 8. Farmington, you had 3 8s in Hart, Moore, and Mogensen. Adams fires the 3 and connects. That's her first 3-pointer, and this is the stage of the game where Hopkins can pull away.
Right. And you see Farmington wants those quick shots. They need to go ahead and decrease this lead right now, but and Hopkins, they'll slow the game down, run their sets.
KK Adams missing the 3-pointer there.
And you saw Paige asking for that pass back because she knew that she could make that entry into the lane.
That makes it 47-32. And an inadvertent whistle. And Woodson, I believe, Who scored that last one?
Woodson.
It was Woodson. So Hopkins putting on the accelerator, and we've seen this so many times over the last several years. That second half is where Hopkins can really make a move.
Nice guard work there from Molly. She knew she had a bigger forward on her and cut back door on her.
Battle for three. Short that time. And the rebound will go to Farmington.
And Hopkins looks like they're going to stay with their full court press. And Molly's going to do it again. Or maybe not. Paige is going to do it again.
Goodbye. 15-point lead for the Royals.
And now Paige takes back over the defensive assignment of Molly.
Hard to Mogensen. And Mogensen is fouled by Bueckers.
Those are two very smart players right there. They are two very smart players.
Kinseth out of the right wing. Had nowhere to go with that.
I think she thought she was going to draw the foul.
And I noticed a lot of the camera folks shooting for overtime and the other highlight sites, they all moved over to the left end. Wherever Paige goes, they follow. And Paige Bueckers putting on a show. Another layup, 23 points. Mogensen in trouble. Goes inside to
Nice
Hart.
seal. Hart's patient down there on that block. She'll keep working her position.
Sophie Hart up to 10. 3 ball, battle missing. Agara with the board.
Nice step through.
And she walked.
And you can see the Hopkins coaches just tell her, just go straight up. You have the height advantage.
$14.50 left in the second half. This is Mogensen. Kinseth, I should say Blandon on the step back move and missed everything. And the Hopkins fans that came out, at least until recently, Hopkins didn't always get the big crowds. That was not the case last year in the Hopkins-Wayzata series. It sold out.
Yeah.
Maya Najee scores, and you get this conversation a lot in the college game, at least until recently. Are dynasties like this bad for the sport? And I would say no, because when we talk about history, they're a part of it.
Right.
But sometimes, folks might take it for granted. As Hart will go to the line with the UConn women, for example, when they were the heavy favorites all those years, folks can sometimes forget it took a lot of work to get there.
Right. And once again, we see Sophie sitting down in her position, being patient. Nothing too fancy. Nice drop step. And on the other end, we also saw Maya, textbook, elbow to elbow, jump shot, catch, turn, and shoot. Great skill sets from both of these young ladies.
Sophie Hart plays volleyball and track, also a member of the National Honor Society, a link leader, and her go-to post-game snack is strawberries with Nutella or chips and guac. KK Adams hits the 3. Farmington on the drive. Peyton Blandon scores.
Molly's doing a great job of getting her teammates going as well. She knows where they are.
But Hopkins building a cushion here. KK Adams, maybe a heat check there. As you noted, Adams, part of that Metro Stars team with Curtis, Carlin, Bueckers. It was an experience for Liza because she had classed up in AAU until last year. And that will be Farmington ball after a quick discussion with the officials. Well, Farmington playing the long ball again, and they've really struggled to make that work.
And I can see where that would work against some other teams. But, you know, they're playing against Hopkins.
The clock, someone forgot to stop it, so we've had a few seconds tick away. We'll play on, though. But someone had the clock running.
Yeah. I always hated that job because I would watch the game so much that I would forget to start the clock.
Or stop it. You know, how many times has that been an issue? Peyton Blandon scoring in transition. Bueckers, by the way, up to 25 points. She averages 22 a game.
Farmington loves those quick buckets.
16-footer for Bueckers, pure. $27 points for the UConn commit. Baseline Jade does not fall. Chance for Hopkins to blow this one open, perhaps. They went on a run late in the second half after Farmington went cold from the floor. And here's Amaya Battle.
Nice step through Amaya.
Whoa! Well, gets her own miss, though. Nifty move, though, for Amaya Battle.
You got to understand that step through. As long as she doesn't bring that foot down, it's okay. And a lot of people are, you know, you hear the crowd, but the ball was already out of her hands by the time her foot came down. So technically, it's not a travel.
Farmington ball. Amaya Battle, huge sneakerhead, hopes to have a room full of shoes one day. I imagine a few other players out there are in the same boat. And she's also in the yearbook club. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have to talk, Maya, because it looks like we wear about the same size tennis shoe.
Oh, Battle?
Yeah. Look how long this kid is.
Woodson almost got the steal there.
Agara. I want to call her by her nickname. Got to remember it's Agara.
Well, Nunu, I'm sure, works.
Yeah.
Mogensen on the drive, no good. It was neck and neck for a while. Hopkins has jumped out to an 18-point lead. And have silenced the crowd here at Farmington.
And I'd like to see her run the floor, and let's see if she's going to spot up. Yeah.
Agara does spot up. Comes up empty, though. Again, Royals can afford that with an 18-point margin.
She's got to get big. Sophie gets the ball.
Mogensen connects or cannot connect on a three-pointer. And Farmington, that's been the difference. They haven't been able to get that outside game in their favor. If a few threes go down, we might be looking at a different score here.
Right. And they have a couple good three-point shooters. I think they do a great job of getting their players open. They're off-the-ball picks, and so it might be time to go to that. Get your shooters hot. But, you know, for that possession, Paige asked for the ball. She brought the ball up. She ran the set. She scored. I think she's sending a message.
Bueckers, a season-high 29 points. Put up 42 last year against Wayzata in the first meeting of that series. The same game where she crossed 2,000.
You know, when there are these opponents that are projected to give Hopkins a run for their money, Paige shows up.
Well, Paige shows up no matter who the opponent is.
Yeah.
But for the big games, when Paige comes to play, and she's been in just about every big game you can imagine. She's traveled all over the world.
And you can see her talking to her team and leading her team and giving them directions. She's definitely a floor general.
Played varsity ball since 8th grade.
You know, those young ladies that play with her, they're going to look back at this and be like, I was a teammate with Paige.
Well, when she started, that was the year where Ashley Bates and Nia Holly were seniors.
Yeah.
I often say it's a pipeline. There's Hopkins bringing the pressure again. It's so tough to contain their speed. But with Hopkins, it's almost cyclical. They've been successful for so long that, you know, big names like Nia Coffey, Sydney Coffey, for example, as Kinseth knocks down the three from the top of the key.
And that's what I'm talking about, that off-the-ball screen. You know, get her open. Get those shots up.
Well, Nia Holly had Nia Coffey to look up to. Bueckers got to play alongside. Chacolas for several years, those two, best of friends. Had Ashley Bates and Nia Holly to study from.
And I would like to see Farmington take some more threes because they have Sophie Hart in the paint and she'll clean up for you.
Well, I don't think Farmington is lacking in three-pointers. It's just being able to get them to convert.
Yeah.
Converting them, that's been the story. Speaking of cleanup, Hopkins with the arrow.
And it can be a little more difficult shooting over some of the taller guards that they have on the roster for Hopkins.
Well, Hopkins does have quite a bit of height. Battle at 5'11", Paige at 6 feet, KK Adams 5'7". You've got Elena Contreras at 5'7". Paige Bueckers will go to the line for two.
She does a great job of using her body to initiate that contact. You got to show that one in slow motion, tutorial.
Paige Bueckers, as I said before, a bright future is ahead of her no matter where she goes. We know she's going to UConn. I will be the last one to tell you where she'll go in the draft. I'm not a scout. And I'm sure everyone's got opinions about her. I've heard the gamut. But Paige is a special player, and
absolutely,
I hope this is just the beginning for her.
And Paige, if you ever need us to cover any of your games,
oh, I don't think that's a problem.
I know. But the last play that Hopkins ran, that's a great play for teams that have smaller guards. Even though Hopkins, they don't have the smaller guards, but that give and go, that backdoor cut, and then to be able to use your body to initiate that foul, I could definitely see Alexis Gray Lawson using that over at Como Park with her group that she has now.
Foul on the Royals, 64-45. We were mentioning some of the folks in attendance, several media members. One of them, Patrick Royce of the Star Tribune. Not too often you get a columnist attending a high school game.
Yeah.
Adams. Oh! I'm not sure what happened there, but Amaya Battle cleans it up. It looked like Adams changed her mind at the last minute, and Hopkins gets the steal.
Yeah, inbounds. Stole it on the inbound.
That inbound pressure of theirs, that's what makes them stand out compared to all those other teams.
That's a great little tactic to have, too. Turn around and steal that inbounds ball coming in, especially if the other team just gets a little lax.
Battle, no good.
She banged all the way in there. A lot of contact there.
Sophie Hart left alone.
Sometimes you're too open. You're expecting the contact to be there.
And someone could look at a score like this, 8 minutes to go, Hopkins up by 21, and no real threat here. And I'm sure someone's going to ask, well, who can beat them, if anybody? As we said, if Farmington knocks down a few threes, we'd be looking at a different score. Royals turn it over there. This is a December game, a potential state tournament preview. If these two teams meet again, I would say you get a completely different matchup.
Oh, yeah.
This is a big one. We even said this last year. Even the Hopkins coaches will tell you, if we're not careful, some of those teams in the section could make a run. They're not cocky about where they're at, their stature. Najee throws it away.
Just open it up a little more. That transition offense. Just open it up, create a little more space. It's there.
Farmington, it looks like they're almost there.
Yeah. And I am amazed. They haven't taken a time. Have they taken a timeout this half?
Not yet.
Yeah, they haven't taken a timeout.
Well, again, there's not a whole lot seating implications, but this is more of a fun non-conference battle.
Yeah. But just the fact that their girls can still run the floor, they're still running the floor.
And give props to Farmington and the other teams that are willing to schedule Hopkins. That's going to be a traveling violation on Hart. Even if Farmington can't get the win tonight, you're going to learn a lot about yourself.
Oh, yeah. As a post player, I felt like she had that foot pinned. I felt like she was pivoting.
In Farmington, they still have plenty of non-conference quality wins on their resume. They'll have a chance to add another one on December 12th when they host Edina. The South Suburban has a good crop of teams. Shakopee undefeated. They beat Chaska last night. Big win against a top 10 team. Shakopee making state a year ago. Rosemount, a contender in Section 3. Lakeville North with Lauren Jensen. She's going to Iowa.
Must be in the water.
Eastview retooling. But if they can hit threes, they can hang with the best of them. So Farmington, they'll get plenty of opportunities, and the same for Hopkins. They and every other Lake Conference school benefiting from the addition of Buffalo and St. Michael Albertville. Buffalo not quite at the level of Hopkins and STMA, but for scheduling purposes.
Right. STMA is some pretty good competition.
Well,
yeah.
And that's 4 fewer dates.
Right.
Because the Lake Conference was so small that teams are having a hard time filling up the schedule. There were a couple of years where Hopkins had a home-and-home series with South Dakota Roosevelt, to give you an idea. Najee knocks down both free throws. And it'll go back to Hopkins. If you're going to beat them, it starts with containing that inbound pressure, and Farmington really struggling in that aspect in the second half.
And with the level of defense that's being played, the girls really aren't fouling. There's only been 5 total fouls called this half.
It's been a clean game.
Yeah.
So Hopkins looks like they're going to hang on for the win, but Farmington, they've done an outstanding job building up their program, as we were saying earlier. In order to beat the best, you've got to build yourself up to become one of them, and I give props to all those teams who found the motivation to run with Hopkins. Others might shrug it off or scoff at what Hopkins does as KK Adams knocks down the corner 3.
That's her sweet spot, that baseline tonight.
Her 3rd triple. Peyton Blandon with the mid-range J, but Farmington's going to run out of time.
Yeah. Especially with Hopkins slowing the game down on the offensive side.
Well, they've got a 24-point lead. They can do that. Adams to Woodson, you bet.
Smart decision there.
And in high school sports, you get, the accusations of recruiting. I mean, to me, it's an unwritten rule. There's nothing against it. It's kind of like the unwritten rules of baseball.
Yeah.
And even if you're not actively recruiting, one of my colleagues had said, teams are doing that whether or not they're conscious of it. Hopkins, their program, their history, what they've accomplished, that's going to resonate. That's going to reach out to people.
Your traveling programs, you look at Stillwater. They've built up their traveling program. They're engaged with our younger kids. The younger ladies that were out on the floor tonight for Farmington. It's recruiting in a positive, healthy way.
Well, with transfers come to mind.
Right.
Hopkins hasn't really had that too much, but everyone transfers for a reason. It's not something you hear a lot of, but sometimes folks get envious or jealous of success. But as we saw in the last several years, it took Hopkins several tries to get back on top. Minnetonka, Elk River, Eastview, all able to hang with them in state until they reclaimed the throne last year.
Yeah.
And I think Hopkins is a big reason why Minnesota basketball has become what it is, because they put on a great model, a great display of excellence, patience.
Right.
And I think that's fed to the other teams. They see that, and other coaches ask themselves, how do we not only match that but surpass it?
And as far as transfers, when you have an athlete that plays at a high level, like these young ladies on the floor right now, I think you have to make the best decision for your family, because there is a lot at stake. A lot of people will say it's basketball, but a lot of these young ladies they're paying for their college education with basketball. So it is important where they play at and who they play for and the environment that they play in.
Well, that's a rare miscue from Paige Bueckers.
Yeah.
That may never happen again. No, I've been blessed to get a chance to see Paige play the last couple of years, and we'll get a chance to connect with some of the other Hopkins athletes. KK Adams. There she is, diving for the steal. Taylor Woodson gets the roll.
Now, they had that switch defensively down there, and Paige got caught behind Sophie. And her guards up top made it so difficult to get that pass in, generated a turnover and an and one. That's what I'm talking about, ladies.
That's a 4th foul on Mogensen.
And you can see the coach giving KK a hug. Really proud of her.
Woodson, when she doesn't like to hoop, or when she's not hooping anyway. What am I saying? Of course she likes to hoop. She also likes to bake. We'll have to figure out what recipes, maybe. Doesn't make the free throw, but that's inconsequential.
I wonder if she has some Christmas cookie recipes.
Well, I'm sure at Hopkins they'll probably lay off the sugar. You know, you got to stay in tip-top shape if you want to run with this team. But as I was saying earlier, blessed to get an insight into some of the players. There's Taylor Woodson. Well, KK Adams, I had a chance to meet up with her last year. And at the end of the season, she said, I hope you come back to do more of our games.
Oh, nice.
As the saying goes, be careful what you wish for. And Delayla Chacolas wants to be a broadcaster someday. Had a chance to meet her.
Attainable for her.
Oh, absolutely. Paige Kinseth with the corner three. And that's why I say I'm blessed to get an insight, because outsiders, they see Hopkins, they look at the wins, the titles, and all the accolades, in particular for Paige Bueckers, who's probably going to get Miss Basketball Minnesota. I know.
Yeah.
Real limb there. There's a high-low play for Najee.
I say they should just already engrave and make the trophy.
Oh, yeah, but my point is, if you go beyond that, with Farmington and Hopkins and all the other teams, this is why I love covering the games, learning these little fun facts about the players that you wouldn't know about. Delayla Chacolas wanted to be a broadcaster, looks up to Doris Burke as a role model. I'm sure she'll have a future in it if she pursues it at Hampton.
And I think part of your role too, interviewing the young ladies and covering their games.
You're so modest.
You're priming them, because you know they are going to have interviews on a much grander scale than their high school games in their future. So they'll be comfortable behind the mic, doing their interviews, talking about themselves and how great they are, answering questions.
Well, Paige doesn't need any etiquette lessons. She's already there. Blandon scores again.
Yeah, but you know, we watched Sarah develop.
That's true.
Yeah.
And KK Adams, Layla, they had some fun with it too. And, you know, and that's the point I wanted to make.
Mm-hmm.
These players are more than the records and the titles, because at some point they'll just be numbers.
Yeah.
Going back to at the start of the broadcast, they didn't tell Molly Mogensen Farmington when she would break her mother's scoring record, because they didn't want her to focus on stats. There's more to it than that. So I treat this game like any other. This was a lot of fun, even though Hopkins pulled away. But the Royals, I've gotten the chance to know, again, Delayla and KK, Nia Holly, one of my best friends. You know, they're just like us.
Yeah.
They're really good at what they do, but there's more to them than what you see in the hardwood. So Hopkins, they will stay undefeated. Farmington will suffer its first loss of the year. But with a match like this, and I'll see Hopkins again when they play Stillwater at the Hall of Fame Classic at Anoka Ramsey. Oh, this is all priming for potential rematch in state. And if Farmington can knock down a few more threes, maybe a different outcome, but Hopkins consistent as usual.
Right.
Paige Bueckers with the first 30-point game of the year, and the Royals will run out the clock.
Great game, ladies.
Farmington put up a fight, but Hopkins will win the day, 77-52. 31 points from Bueckers, 16 from Maya Najee, and Hopkins taking another big step to that best team ever, if you want to go in on that discussion. But however you look at it, a big win for the Royals, and I'd say they passed their first big test with flying colors.
Right, and a big showing for Farmington too. They came out, they gave Hopkins strong competition. But you know, this Hopkins team, they're loaded. So much talent, high basketball IQ. They've played together for a while. Great coaching staff, great program. It's going to be tough for anybody to beat them.
It will be tough, but it's been done before. So again, we're a long way away from March. There are no guarantees, but this was a lot of fun to be a part of. You're watching high school girls basketball. Hopkins knocks off Farmington, 77-52. Twin Cities Sports Broadcasting, and a whole lot more.
That's what you get from TSB Television. We provide long-lasting digital coverage of your favorite athletes from the preps to the pros. Dazzling moves.
Holloman, good if it goes. Yes!
Game winners.
From James. She's in trouble. Finds James. Toss shot! It goes in!
And everything in between. Before we let you go, do you want to say hi to anybody?
Oh, I don't know. That's put me on the spot there.
If you want to connect with our audience, visit us at patreon.com/TSB Television or sponsor our coverage through PayPal and Cash App. Thank you for watching.
Joining me are Paige Bueckers and Maya Naji. Paige, your first 30-point game of the season, your first big test of the season. I'd say you passed with flying colors. That Hopkins pressure really got to Farmington tonight. How were you able to get so much pressure on them, especially on inbounds?
Yeah, I mean, that was our main emphasis, just pressuring their guards. We knew they were really good and they had a height advantage on us. So taking away the guards and their vision, just playing with our length and just making them turn it over is what our key was for us.
Maya, you had to battle it out with Sophie Hart. That's not an easy thing to do, but you managed 16 points. What would you make of the Battle of the Bigs tonight?
She's a really good player. I played her before. I played with her, so it was fun to be able to compete against her today. And yeah, she played hard, and we both battled, and it was good.
And Paige, I guess you got a little preview as well with Molly Mogensen going to Creighton. It'll be a future Big East battle. But after several games where you won convincingly, how refreshing is it to get a taste of a team that can run with you like Farmington?
It's really good to just get out here and on their home card get the win. And it was a tough battle. It was a dogfight, but we came out on top. And I thought we played pretty well, but we can't get complacent and think that we're just going to come out and win every game like we did tonight. So we just got to keep working and get back to practice on Monday.
And on that note, there was an article in the Star Tribune that talked about if this is the best Hopkins team ever, along with Minnehaha. And I know you've been getting a lot of accolades. How do you keep that from getting to you? Because that's a lot to put on teenagers, even with state championship season like last year.
We know that if we just have to finish this season strong, and if we lose a game, we can't be talked about like that. So we're just working hard in practice and making sure that we prove that we're one of the best teams to ever play here.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely doesn't get to our heads. We're really humble, and we just put our head down and just keep working. We're never satisfied. We're just always hungry. So yeah.
Always hungry indeed. And what comes next? You've got some more big tests, including the Park Center invite, and I know for you, Paige, all of the check marks have been cleared now. So how do you enjoy this last year with the college commit and the state championship and everything? So I know you want another one, but at the same time, it's almost like you can have a little fun now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, just having the recruiting process over and knowing that this is my last year getting to play with these girls. And after high school, it really becomes a job in college. So I'm really just trying to enjoy it and work hard and be a leader for these young girls and just enjoy my last season with my sisters.
Well, I'd say based on the photo ops you got with the younger folks here in Farmington, you're doing a great job in that leadership role. And I'm excited to see what you do and what Maya does in future seasons. You want to say hi to anybody?
My mom, my dad. Hi.
Don't forget Drew, right?
My little brother Drew, my little sisters, my little brother.
Maya, what about you? Hi to all my little cousins, my grandma, and my sister and parents.
And don't forget Maya's big brother out in Arizona, too. Well, thanks for the time. Congrats on the win. And hopefully this will be the next of many big wins coming your way. But again, thanks for the time and props to what you have done for this sport and this state for women's basketball.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, that's Paige Bueckers and Maya Naji. That wraps up our coverage here from Farmington High School. For the rest of our crew, I'm Mike Peden. Thanks for watching.